Can everybody see the screen?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So, Raghavendra,
Yep, I'm here.
yeah. Like, do you want to start like with the types
So,
of issues in accessing the web, or do we need to
before
have?
before this, let's ask everyone like
So let's ask everyone, how many of you know what accessibility is?
yes.
Digital accessibility is.
Yeah, good question. Uh, Also, if like you don't want to talk, you can
Yeah, you can
also
use the chat. Just
chat.
say,
Yeah.
So I think accessibility, what it means is like as many people can use it. Like if you have made something, make it such that as many people can use it. Yeah. So
yes. So you build something, one product which everyone can use, irrespective of age, disability, anything. Okay. So like, which is universal.
So
Okay.
can we call responsive site as well as a part of accessibility?
no.
Yes. Because
And internationalization.
internationalization is also part of accessibility, because you're providing something, you build something and you're giving it for multiple languages.
Got
So
it.
that is one thing. So a responsive design helps people with disability. I think some people should go on mute.
Um, uh,
One is watching TV. Yeah.
Naman, can you?
Yeah. So responsive design is also a part of accessibility. The thing is, when you build something in responsive design, it is accessible on multiple devices. So you built a product and that a website or app, and you can use it on multiple devices. So that is also part of accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jay said that responsiveness is different than accessibility. Accessibility is for the people who are differently abled. Um, so, yeah,
So
I think yeah, as Raghavan mentioned, anything which helps to make it accessible for everyone is a part of accessibility. Though we don't think about it as accessible, making it as accessible site, but it is indeed.
responsiveness is part of accessibility because because users use your site or your product on phone or mobile or any other device, and they should be able to use it. If your site is not accessible and it is hindering them with the use, it is not accessible. So responsiveness is technically part of accessibility.
Yeah. And same thing is there are but let's focus on different type of issues which prevents people to access the web.
Yeah.
um,
Sudhanshu, there is a question from
Yeah.
Maybe.
So the question is how slow internet connection.
Yes.
So when you build something accessible, so let's say that you built a website with a lot of images, and you provided a lot of every image with an alternative text. So what happens if you have slow internet connection? The images doesn't load. But what happens is like the placeholder, which is the alternative text, loads, so that a user knows, there is this picture, a picture of Eiffel Tower, if you're, or a picture of Raghavendra Satish Perry. So that way, the context is not lost, even though the page has not rendered completely. So that is one usage of, this accessibility.
Yeah. So I will just add on to that. Like in many mobile browsers, there is an option when you set like data saving mode where you can disable image loading, and that is where, as Raghavendra mentioned, alternative text help. And yeah.
yep. And someone else have any question on that? Okay. So back to that. Like, what are the major issues which prevent people from accessing the web?
Shall we again go ask people to let us know? Yeah, like anybody else want to like point out? Like most common is like people who use screen readers, people with visual impairments, but like any other thing which comes to anybody's mind?
And visual impairment is also different, right? Like
Yeah.
some people are color blind, so probably having a proper contrast ratio is a part of that. Then some are like a fully visual impaired. So
There's
there is
echo on your side. Sudhanshu?
No, I think someone joined just now. So,
Okay.
guys, everyone who are not speaking, go on mute, please.
yeah. Please everyone mute yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Lijal.
Like
I
when
have
you
a
are
question.
speaking, you can unmute.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Leisure?
Yep.
Yeah, Lijal.
Yeah.
I have a question. Since you were asked talking about high contrast ratio and all, this question is more from the validation point of view. I have seen some people doing high contrast test. Now there are two things. One is color contrast analyzer, and one is high contrast. There is a screen that in Zoom and all,
Yeah.
not this Zoom, that JAWS product Zoom.
Yeah.
You get something called as high contrast. Do you actually need to validate that? Because there is no success criteria WCAG guideline which specifies you need to do the high contrast. There is rule for the color contrast for the background and the foreground, but for high contrast issue, do we need to validate that?
There is no success criteria. You're right. The WCAG doesn't specify that you test something in high contrast mode of a Windows, Mac, or use Zoom text or anything.
Mhm.
So that is not a requirement. So
Because
even if you don't pass it, it is not a failure of your any WCAG success criteria.
because I have seen Wipro guys and Cognizant guys doing it. That was the reason why I
So the
asked.
thing is, they are still in 1990s
Okay, that's
because that was WCAG 1.0 that was saying that it should be accessible, or section 508 before the refresh. Now WCAG 2.0, 2.1 doesn't talk about that.
So Raghavendra, what about that AAA level criteria where required contrast is like greater than 4.5? It's around 7:1,
It
I
is
guess.
7:1, but it is not asking you to test with Windows high contrast mode.
Okay, yeah, that is more like it's like
It's a
user.
choice.
it's
Yeah,
a choice. Good to have.
yeah, yeah.
So even AAA is like see, there are three things on WCAG, which is must, should, and could. So the wording is such a way. Must is you should do it definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Should is something that if you do it, it will help. Could is like if you want to do it, you do it. Otherwise, you can leave it. So AAA comes under could.
Okay. What is the standard you are mentioning? This is a question from Jay. Raghavendra, you want to?
It's WCAG 2.2 and 2.1, which is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines.
And you can also like little bit talk about the different levels we are talking, double and triple.
So WCAG, I think Satish is here. Satish?
Hello.
Yeah, you want to talk about WCAG A, AAA, AA, and AAA?
Yeah, so there are three levels. Okay, Raghu. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so first is A, which is a must. Okay, so there are three conformance levels specified in WCAG 2.0 and 2.1 as well. Okay, so A means you have to mandatorily meet the success criteria that is specified. AA is the actual required level. So in order to pass AA, you have to meet A first. So AA and A are both usually must. So you have to meet both the conformance levels, whereas AAA is not a mandatory level. If you have it, it's really good. If you don't have it, it's okay. It depends on the organization. Yeah. Ashish said something. Can you see that?
Ashish mentioned like AAA is
Applied
on USA government sites only.
No, AAA is not mandatory. AA is mandatory.
So
Even in the federal government sites of US now, it's not mandatory because Section 508 has been refreshed now to meet WCAG 2.0 AA.
yeah, I have one question on this, Raghavendra. So is there implication of not having site accessible. So a lot of company doesn't build accessible site, right? But and it is very common. So is there any implication where people can just uh, sue any company or something like that in India and US? I know, but in India, is there something like that?
I think in India there is something called Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016. So the deadline for to become accessible was 2019 June, and now I think it was pushed to 2020 March. But the problem in India, the act is there, the policy is there, but no one is aware of the deadlines or how to achieve them and all that. So, and in India, one more problem is like how it is happening in even in US with all the strong laws. It is the lawyers and the disability activists who actively sue the companies and then make sure these companies comply with the law. But in India, that is not happening as of now. So the thing is, someone has to own this. Like if I say I want to sue so and so company, I need to own it. Then I have to put a petition, follow it up in the court, then go to court regularly whenever the hearing comes. Well, that's a lot of work, and
But
there is
there are
cost involved also.
Just want to
but there are
add one
wide
more point.
categories of issues in accessing web, right? Like so that is one, like visual impairment, and then there is a motor disability. And we will have probably uh,
Uh, Sudhanshu,
Okay,
I think we were asking
those
everyone.
are disability types. So the
Yeah.
disability types have nothing to do with accessibility. So see, people with, so when I say universal design or inclusive design, what happens is like you built only one thing and it should be accessible to all these disability groups.
mhm, mhm.
Okay, now you don't build a website just for a screen reader user. Like you don't build a website for motor impaired user. You don't build a website for color blind user. So you built like only one website and one mobile app, so it should be accessible to all these disability groups.
Yeah, I think
So
what Sudhanshu was saying, I think like how people with different disabilities have like problems issuing like
Accessing.
accessing content on the internet, like what kind of problem they
yeah,
like face
my
and how to we can
my
fix
question
them.
was also on that, like if we have a different implications of not having accessible site, then because there are multiple type of thing which we have to cover to make a site accessible. So is there a thing defined on AAA, like okay, you might not consider this particular case like a in motor disability. I'm not sure what all things we have to take care on the website part.
So Sudhanshu, I don't think like the criteria is based on the disabilities. It is like based on the access. So like for motor disability, you can say like somebody who has like issues controlling their hands, right? For they might be like having trouble. So if you don't have enough touch area for your buttons, or so they might not be able to click it properly. So for that, there is a like the area should be good enough, or like
Yeah, 42 mm on iPhone, like 48 on Android.
so the like criteria is for like it is not specific to one disabilities, but it is like helpful for everyone.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, that's so
Yeah.
I think shall we go back to like types of problems people face accessing
Yeah,
content?
sure.
Does anybody else have like any examples of like how people with different kind of disabilities faces issues on internet?
We have
So,
our
for
own site.
example, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi Rohan.
Hi. Maybe you want to go first.
You are not audible.
I think somebody was speaking. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
you are audible.
Yeah. So, because I just want to touch upon the basic, challenges what maybe a person with visual impairment like me, who is using a screen space normally on a web page, which is not accessible. So I think to understand the structure of the page itself, it's a bigger challenge if the tags are not there. The semantic challenge, the tags are not properly put up together on a web page. The code is randomly just embedded. So I think the heading tags, the list tags, the you know the content itself is not put up in a meaningful order. So I think these are the basic challenges. What are normally, you land up on a page and you don't understand that what exactly from top to bottom the content is actually put up. And apart from that, yes, there are n number of challenges. If there could be a table, the header association is missing for that. The images do not have a alt text, or the videos, again, going back to the multimedia aspect, I think the captions and the transcripts missing. So these are the basic challenges. And seeing in today's time, I think the dynamic content is available, where the automatic, the rather the dynamic announcements which do not come from a screen reading point of view. So when you are expanding or collapsing a button, or changing a radio button option, or selecting a checkbox for that matter. So I think these are the, again, basic things in today's time what we need to take care when we are building a website accessible. Does that make sense?
Yep, yeah, it does make sense. So these are like all the things like improving our semantics for helping the browser to have a like a more accessible site. Or I will come onto that topic as well, like how this A1 trees are formed based on your semantics. Um,
I just want to ask one question to Raghava. Probably I don't know whether it could be taken up later or not. So
yes, yes. Please go ahead.
yeah. Raghava, many times we are testing, and a particular page against the success criteria related to text spacing and browser, and the 400 zoom. So
Yes.
there are discrepancies when we are considering, maybe a 17-inch monitor, or a different resolution for that matter. So I think what could be the best, way to address these challenges? Sometimes the companies or the organizations or the developers rather, they do not address this as a probable problem, because they say that in our screens the content is quite visible when it comes to 400 zoom, or the text spacing is another aspect. So can you just share a few pointers for these two success criteria, that what are the normal ways to address, and what could be the best way to confirm that these are the violations?
So if your CSS styles are appropriate, Rohan, it doesn't matter if you're on a 17-inch or a 50-inch monitor. If you're projecting it on any screen, it should reflow and the text spacing should adjust accordingly. So if it fails anywhere, it fails because it's not supposed to fail. So that means the CSS is not appended. Like Vikas can jump in from the development standpoint, that you gives the CSS to a certain screen width and height, but not for not all the media queries. You did not include all the media queries. So that is why it is failing for a 17-inch screen. Whereas in tablet or a 13-inch screen, it passes because that media query is in the CSS style sheet. Correct, Vikas?
Yeah, like that is like most common issue. Like if you are not changing font size or like reflowing your content, it might fail. And I think what Rohan meant mostly with the like DPI, so like in a high retina display, like even for a small screen, the content can be like pretty dense for the resolution. For that is like mostly it, you can't do anything based on the resolution. Mostly like if person is changing the resolution, that they have to change it back. Otherwise, I don't think we can do any from.
So any standardized resolution you want to like highlight, that this
Uh,
could be the best?
may I add
So
some?
Ashish has mentioned that we should use REM or EM, which is our like relative sizes, which will increase with the screen size, which is true. So yeah,
I
that is
think
another reason.
I think on one of the article I read, use REMs and EMs
Yeah, that is
Uh,
like best way to like increase the font size or decrease the font size is compared to the screen size. And what the Snehil has asked, like, why not percentage?
I
So
think
there are two things that I would like to answer here. One
Yeah.
is when you talk about reflow particularly,
Okay.
is there any way to stop this Zoom announcing everything?
it's very difficult, Satish. That has become one headache. That live region is not
Whenever
quitting.
people are chatting, it is really disturbing. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Can everybody can stop like adding
For five
messages for
minutes.
now for 5
Yeah.
minutes?
Okay. So the first thing that we need to understand is, oh my God. Okay.
Just continue, Satish.
Okay. No, okay. Voiceover is announcing everything. Okay. So
Okay.
for reflow, the minimum pixel that you need to adopt when you go for a 400%, it doesn't matter which screen size you are into, whether it is 27.
Guys, go on mute, please.
Okay. So whether it is 27-inch iMac or whether you are using some other bigger screens or whether you are using this smaller one, it is 320 CSS pixels is the actual size for which the reflow is calculated. So if you really want to imagine that as a device, actually, other than a computer, your actual screen sizes must be fit into an iPhone 5s, which is a 4.7-inch screen, and that is equivalent to almost 320 pixel CSS pixel. So if your content is if your content reflows appropriately in that particular screen, then you will be able to reflow it anywhere else. So that is the first point that we need to note down here. And second is there was another question on so why not percentage? So what happens is um, when somebody applies a bookmarklet, like there is a bookmarklet called Style. Sorry, not Style. It's not a bookmarklet. It's an assistive technology. It's called Stylus, and that application, that extension in Chrome works in Chrome, which can adjust the text spacing as per the user's requirement. You can choose any line height, width, and paragraph spacing and letter spacing also. So when the user tries to adjust that using such an extension, and if the content breaks or overlaps or gets cut off, then obviously the point of having such an extension is of no use. So the bookmarklet is only for a testing methodology that which we are using. No, people with dyslexia or somebody is not using such a bookmarklet in real time. They're using a plugin called Stylus, which is actually an assistive technology. So when such customization happens, if you use percentage, obviously, then you have to define the percentage everywhere. If you don't define the percentage, if it does not adjust according to the extension's requirement, obviously the content is not going to adjust itself. The line space or height will not increase. The text will overlap with each other, and then the users are not will not be able to achieve the required effect that they want. So that's why we WCAG requirement. I mean, it's not actually a requirement; it's a sufficient technique which says that you can use REM and M. So that's the answer.
And one more thing on the REM and EM part. So basically, because REM is relative to the root font size of whatever you have defined on HTML tag, HTML or body tag, and everywhere it follows the same factor. But in EM, it follows the factor of its parent font size. So let's say in any of the div in between, you are having some different font size, and in child you say 2em, so it will be 2em of the parent font size. But REM is like the global, so you have set a global value for 1x, and then wherever you are using REM, it would be factor of that global value. So REM is more adjustable in terms of all the tools and all, because you just have to change the font size of the like HTML element, and everywhere on the page things will get adjusted. But em and percentage, a percentage also fails on the same way like a em fails, because the percentage depends on its parent percentage, and also like if you are not defining some value on the parent, then it might break. Like uh, I'm not very sure on the percentage part, but it also is relative to parent if you have defined it, if you have defined font size there. If you have not, then I'm not sure how the percentage will work there. But yeah, so if you're thinking about the complete responsive thing, REM is the best option you can have. But again, people mitigate like in a product applications, REM and EM doesn't work very properly. Like on a blog site it might work, but not for all the product application, where you need to have some fixed font size for a given type of viewport. So in that, people change the value of this font sizes based on screen size. And because now you have a CSS variables, it become much easier to do that.
Hi,
You can have a
is
pixel
somebody
based.
speaking or actually I'm unable to hear anything?
Am I not audible?
No, you are
Yes, you are
audible.
audible.
You're audible,
Hello.
Siddhamsha.
Hello.
Seems like
Uh, am I
maybe
even?
You are audible.
You might need, if you are not hearing, you might not need to connect to audio. There is an option Zoom shows. If it is showing, you need to connect to some audio.
Yeah. So I was almost done with that. Like yeah. So um, pixel based thing is fine, but if you are using pixel, make sure you handle all the different screen viewport sizes. And on the blog side, where it is a content heavy, REM is the yeah. So
Sorry,
let's
Sudhanshu,
move
can you
on
repeat the last 10
to
seconds?
agenda.
Sudhanshu, you are lagging. Can you repeat?
Yeah, can you repeat the last sentence?
hello.
Okay. Yeah. So on the product, always viable to use REM or EM. So that time pixel based thing is fine. You can use it, but make sure you are covering all the different viewport sizes to have that effect. Like generally in a mobile screen, the font sizes are a little bigger than the desktop size. And also you should be able, you should provide some tool where people can choose to have like a double A size and single A. So that way, like people have a control to increase the font size if they want. There are CSS variables. You can use those variables. But for the article or a content heavy site, REM is the best unit to define all all the font sizes or width and height and everything. So what I was saying, like let's move to our agenda. We will be covering a lot of this on next topics as well. So I think we have already discussed like what are different types of issues are there in accessing in the web. Did we missed anything, Vikas?
No, actually, we wanted to discuss like what other issues people faces. No, but I think if you're running out of time, we can move forward. Normally, like people who uses keyboard only, they can't access mouse or they can't use mouse for some reason. For that, if tabbing order or the markup is not semantic, they are unable to access some part of the site, and some part is totally unreachable for them, which is like another issue. Or similarly, some people who have auditory problems, they need live captioning or captions for the visual content. If you are not providing captioning for your content, it is like unusable for those people. Yeah, these are the most common I can think. And yeah.
And okay, so what all assistive tags are there? Um, lot of we know, like there is a screen reader. What all other things are there?
Does anybody else know like any other kind of assistive text?
Yeah, we have speech input. So
Can
there is
everybody else mute? Satish is speaking. Yeah, Satish.
so we have there is an assistive tech called I mean you can also see this Mac has recently come up with voice control. Apple has come up with that.
Yeah.
You can control the entire website or your machine through the voice assistant. And similarly, there is another software that is specifically meant for speech input, which is called Naturally Dragon. Dragon actually. So that is also quite useful. And so which is these two software, and even Windows has its own software like speech recognition, which you can set up in the control panel, and you can make you can train your voice, train the system based on your voice, and it will accept any input from you and work on that. So that is one kind of assistive technology that we have as of now. And for the motor disabled user, there are other assistive tech. Other assistive tech, for example, for keyboard users, you have alternate keyboard, which means there is a one-hand keyboard. So people who have either right or left hand alone can use that keyboard. And then you have switch control devices, wherein you have only 2 switch or 3 switches. So they have to operate the entire site using the switch, which is like just 1 2 1 2 1 2. That is how the switch control works. So that is another assistive tech that we have to be aware of. And there obviously there are other technologies nowadays coming. You have eye gazing technology. You can control your system using your eyeball movement. But all these assistive technologies usually work if the entire site meets the specified guidelines as of now. Like if it is a keyboard, if the site works with keyboard, usually it works with switch control in most of the cases. And if the appropriate markup is there, and if the keyboard shortcuts do not interfere with any typing or anything like that, then even speech input users are safe anyway. And obviously, we are taking care of screen readers too, with all the name, role, and functionality and all that. So obviously, there are other assistive tech like you have this zooming, magic zoom from Windows itself, and iOS devices have their own zoom functionality. There are other accessibility services that you can find in mobile devices these days. Like for example, invert colors, even dark mode is one of the assistive technology you can say. So as of now, that's what I can think of.
Yeah, thank you, Satish. So as Satish said, like if you
Go on with us.
Yeah, so like if you fix issues for like one thing, it is most likely help with other assistive text too. Like if you have proper semantic elements and proper navigation order tab indexes. So if it is working with tab key, it will most likely work with switches and other assistive text. So yeah, that's like, so you don't need to fix for each individually, but if you just follow proper guidelines and meet AA criteria, most of the assistive text will be able to use your content, parse your content. Yeah.
Okay. I had the same question. Like, do we have to do all of this assistive tech follow different standard, and then we'll listen where we have to implement for a
Yeah, I
given
think here
assistive
your
tech.
question will be best like answered in the next topic, which is like accessibility trees. So like how accessibility takes understand what your content is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like it is open to
How many of
everyone.
you have heard about accessibility object model?
I think, yeah, I think first we should go with the accessibility trees, accessibility object model we can cover
Okay.
after this, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, accessibility trees, like anybody want to chime in, like what are these? And so, okay, so we all know about the DOM tree, right? The DOM, how it works. Again, I am assuming yes. So accessibility tree works the same way. Accessibility tree is like a way browser generates how the content should be. Like when we say button and there's a 3 input element, there button, and they are wrapped inside a form. In the DOM, we can check inspect element, right? There's the form. You open it in the form, you will see 3 elements, 2 input element, 1 button. So you know the tree, how it is. Sorry.
You can show an example of this, right? Like just a
Yeah.
inspect
Yeah. So same way browser exposes like how it is shown for assistive text. So I'll just show you a demo. So this is like very basic form or basic HTML document. So here we can see our DOM. We have body, we have header. Header has heading element 1 and paragraph tag. Then we have main content. Then there's a form. Then there are break lines, button. So, and on the right, if you can see, there is an option in Chrome. You can, if you can't see, you can see in this drop down. This is accessibility, and here Chrome generates the accessibility tree for us. So what it says is like we have web area. So, and body is ignored. Now we go to header. So header is treated as banner in assistive text. So like if you don't do header, you have to do like div and role equal to header. And it is now it is not calling it banner, giving it a role header, but like that's the alternative of HTML5 elements. So if you are not using heading, you can use role header. And now accessibility is saying is like inside the web area we have a heading, and which text is text, like this is heading. And for paragraph, it says this is a paragraph, and the text is this is paragraph. So as you can see, and this is what the browser exposes to the native OS accessibility APIs. Like, okay, this is a paragraph. You can, so the OS level accessibility API will know this is a paragraph. And now when the assistive text or using screen reader, when they will go on this content, it will be treated as a paragraph with this text. So as you can see, the role of semantics here, if we, instead of using H1, we just use a paragraph tag and then give some styling to it, like font bold and font weight bold, font size 28 pixels. It will look like a heading to us for sighted users, which is good thing. But for assistive text, it will be treated as paragraph. And there are many assistive text has a shortcuts based on different semantic elements like group by headings. So users can quickly go through different headings and stop on a heading where they want to explore. So that's why the semantics are important, and that's how the accessibility tree normally helps. So here we can see in our main content, we have a form, and there is a label, then a text box, then line break, then a label, then a line break. So let's go one by one in this. So this is the most common method to provide label for any input. Here we have a label which has a text, and it is bound with this input. So when a screen reader user or an assistive text announces it, it will be like the label for this input field is first name. And another way to do the same is this. In accessibility tree, this is much better because it just says this. When you go to input, it has a text box of first name, which is coming from the label. The same way. And the alternative third, if you don't want to show the label and all, you can use ARIA attributes, ARIA label, which will work the same way. It will announce it is like a text box, which label first name. So this is like the accessibility tree, the method how browser exposes. Sorry.
I have one question. Sometimes what happen, there is a design where you can't apply label or you can't apply input in the label box.
Yeah.
So in that case, what is the better option for HTML purpose and for the accessibility purpose also?
So there are like two methods. One is to have ARIA label, ARIA attribute, which is ARIA label. You can provide it in the input element itself, and it will be like assistive text will be able to pick it up. Then another method is to have visually hidden elements, which is like there is the most common class, utility class in Bootstrap, if many people has used, that is called SR only. So you
Okay.
can have an element, and let's say for here we want to hide our level, we can just
So because in
sorry.
that, if we hide the visible label, so it fails the visible label guideline again. So one of the methods that you need to do is like what you can do. You can have there is a new design pattern called the floating label.
Yeah, floating levels.
So what we do is like you hide the label within the text box as a placeholder, and when the
Okay.
text box gets the focus,
Yeah.
the label moves either up or to the side or below the text box. It
Yeah.
floats up as a bubble,
Yeah.
and after you enter you and you will be able to enter the data.
Yeah.
So without there
I
is
have
no.
one more question. I have one more question regarding.
Yes,
Listen, I have like for floating label, I have to write JS for that also
yes,
right now.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I recently what we have some designs in my project where there is no concept of floating label because it was considered as a material design concept,
Yeah.
floating label. So we are not using materialize, we are using core bootstrap only. The problem is we have many labels there and many inputs, but the design is in such a way that I can't put label input box into the label.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
so in this cases, mostly like you should have a talk with your designers, like we, and let them know like why we need a visible label. Like most designers in their like common design pattern where like placeholders are used as a label, but there it has its own drawback, and label should
So
be there.
I'll give you a simple scenario. Placeholders are not read by the screen reader, not
Okay.
every screen reader. Okay, now you are saying you have a lot of form fields. Okay,
Yes.
now you have 10 form fields: first name, last name, email address, or whatever is it. Now when I tap to it, it will just read edit, 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 edit. It will not tell me what is it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but if you use ARIA label, it will tell me, so and so. But if I'm a cognitive disability user, okay, who has short term memory or something,
Mm-hmm.
now I will enter. Okay, I can see the placeholder. Okay, first name I entered, last name I entered, then I entered some other data into all these fields. Okay, now I want to check if I entered the correct data into all these form fields.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the short term memory disability, how will
Yes.
I identify which text box is for
Label.
which label?
I have to place label for that.
Yes, so
Yeah.
somewhere there should be a hint, either in the form of a picture, icon, picture, or some other. You can use any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And
Satish, a picture is acceptable, I think. Yes, no?
yeah, picture would have an
Yeah,
alternative text, so I
a
think
picture is acceptable, yes.
if if
Yes.
if I place pictures, so what happened to those who can't see?
there will be
You have to
alternative
provide
text.
an
They will use ARIA label.
Pardon me.
The ARIA label will be sufficient for people who can't see, who are blind. So the
Okay.
picture is for more cognitive disability users and people with, users with different disabilities, to identify what at least that. See, for telephone number, you can use a telephone symbol. For email, you have a different symbol. For
Mm-hmm.
username, you have different symbol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of icons, lately. There's, I think, font awesome, or there are a lot of these icons that come into picture. So they simplify this process. If you don't want to use like first name, last name in the text format, you can use any of these.
Mm-hmm.
But along with all of those icons, we should provide ARIA labels, right? Otherwise,
Yes, yes. So ARIA label is not visible on the screen. It's there in the code. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, got you.
So we should use ARIA level for
We
both,
should use
right?
both. Like we should use a combination of things.
Yep. So you use a symbol to identify what that uh, text field is, or a control. Like it can be that combo select element or anything, and then you provide ARIA label to that element.
And I think the most common we all must have faced is in in input field where we have to enter date, right? And there are many formats for the date. And if you don't provide label with the proper hint which format to use, user might end up like typing and deleting just to
Yeah,
check which
especially the date field.
the date field is like most common where label is like very helpful even for the sighted user with no disability. So yeah, this is like the most common. So I think
So I have a question on this. It's fine, like let's say we are using uh, native HTML elements, then it will help with the all the SSTU tags, but forming this A11YT. But what about third-party libraries? Like for drop down, now we do have like a React Select or some other select library, right? So will
Not all third-party elements are accessible. That is first thing. Second thing is, if they claim that they are accessible, you need to get them tested thoroughly,
okay.
because more often what is happening lately is like they say we are accessible. Okay, then what they do is like they run an automation tool on this element, and the
Mhm.
automation tool throws zero errors. Okay,
Mhm.
but when it comes to using with assisted technology, it doesn't work, because what they have done is they hack the code in such a way where they provide some ARIA attribute or anything, like for the select element role combo box, role list box, and option and all, but they don't provide it in the right HTML like where they are
Okay.
supposed to provide, they are not providing it there. So, and they are not providing the right key press events and all. So what happens is like that those elements are useless when it comes to using with assistive technology or with a
And
keyboard.
yeah, there is also saying right, like bad areas are worse than having
No
uh,
ARIA. Yeah.
no area.
I think there is a blog where a user makes a 100
Yeah,
site
so
where it is
it's his name is Manuel Macisavic.
yeah.
The website is matuzo.at, matuzo.at. So he scores 100 out of 100 on Google Insights, and that page is 0% accessible.
Yeah, actually he goes out of his way to make by default accessible elements inaccessible, but it still passes. So yeah, that tells us about the automated tests.
Satish, Ravi here.
Yeah.
So regarding this discussion, actually, I just had one just point which I wanted to you to clarify. Like as you given the example for the combo box, now I just want to ask you, like as we all know that there is a lot of code dependency on that particular uh, actionable element, like anything.
Hmm.
So if it's a legacy application, then what do we do in that case, Satish? Because if because the client has already like a lot of dependency on that side, and we are supposed to be developers are supposed to remediate it. So what's the best approach, Satish? Can you put forward for that?
So legacy application. So when you say legacy and application, which language it is in?
Any say suppose you take any language, like you talk about like Angular or the previous person, he gave an example of that combo box, right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask you, how do you basically take that point forward and like convincing the main part is the convincing the clients that yeah, this is the best approach forward. So how do you go about that? Because that's
Say
the,
this.
I think, probably the most difficult part. Yeah.
So convincing is not part of the accessibility professionals' work.
But we have to clarify, right? In the technology perspective, we have to
Yeah,
tell.
but if the client is serious about accessibility, then he has to understand that they have to do certain changes to their code base to get it accessible.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so the first thing is your client ready, willing to implement accessibility is the question. That because when you are saying convincing, that means this client is not even interested in accessibility, they don't care much there.
If they
So
are a US client, then just tell them that they will be get sued. They'll get sued, just like Domino's.
see, the thing is, Ravi, uh, convincing as part of your project management work and all, as an accessibility professional, you say, this widget needs this kind of rework from here to this. It needs this code change. Okay, now your developer and your project manager and the sales folks will talk to your client, and then they work on the logistics part of it.
Correct. Fine, Satish. Yeah.
Okay,
So guys,
so
any more questions you guys have?
yeah, anybody has like any question about like accessibility or like how a CC text understand the content we write on the browser? Think I have few more example if we want to go through.
Yeah, I think there is one blog post on Marco Z has written one blog post on this, how assistive technology works with the browser.
Yeah. Can you add the resource link on the same doc?
Okay.
So yeah, so okay, yeah, these are the things, and there is one more thing which is like currently in draft, is like accessibility object model. So does anybody wants to like talk about what
I
is
think that is very huge.
topic?
Yeah,
But like I can give a little
it
summary,
becomes
like
heavy.
yeah, like quick summary like what it is, and we can move on to that then.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, if it is too big, we can have that on.
Yeah, we'll have it in another session because I think this is becoming heavy today.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, but like the one liner is like for accessibility is like instead of having ARIA attributes, you can actually like JavaScript will provide API which will we can use to make our modify accessibility related attributes directly. So
Hmm.
instead of really saying role equal to header, you can query the element and dot role equal to, which is like very basic idea of how this AOM will work. But there are like a lot of stuff around it. As Raghavendra said, we can like discuss it separately.
So, guys who are all on this call, how much you understood today, like about accessibility? Do you think you learned something new today? Yes. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
and actually, we have few more things. Uh, so we'll go on more
Sitanshu,
on
you're
code.
breaking.
Okay, I'll stop my video probably. Okay. We have few more things as well on. We will take few actual UI interface thing, and we'll discuss on that, like how to work, how to make something accessible there. Um, so we have that as well. But apart from that, regarding what is accessibility, why accessibility is required, and how browser treat your DOM, I think people should have learned something. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
Sudhanshu, there
think
is a message from Jay, like
a
he
lot
did
of.
learn quite a few things, but we'll need to go to the recording once more. Too much info today.
No, I agree. There's a lot of information for someone who's just starting up. So that is,
Can I ask a question? I mean, before we
yes,
get
yes, please.
it was regarding the question that was asked before regarding the reflow, right?
Could you be
So,
please bit louder?
am I audible now?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was regarding the question that Rohan, I suppose Rohan asked regarding the reflow to 100%. Okay. So this question is more from the validation and from testing. So I usually only validate one thing when it comes to reflow. It's if
I'm
I
not
have
understanding
a single
because
bit.
No,
Yeah.
your voice is very broken and distorted.
Seems like the net issue, I suppose.
Maybe can you type the question in the chat?
Mm, yeah, it was a bit lengthy. I'll try to speak, and in the meanwhile, I'll chat as well. So,
Yes.
from the validation point of view, if you are given the thing of reflow, what would you have validated? I mean,
So I
I
think
validate
Satish,
only one thing, that is the
yeah, Satish
horizontal.
told you the answer for that about 320 pixels. Is it coded according to the 320 pixels? See, I only look at the normative part of WCAG. So there is something called normative part and informative part in WCAG. The normative part is must. Okay, like if you open WCAG, the first line that if you go to like keyboard, it says all elements should be operable with keyboard or something of that sort. There'll be only one liners, the guideline. So those are normative part. Like if you see the reflow, let me see.
So while you're getting the
Okay,
answer, I have one point. What I
one,
did was I just validated if there was a horizontal scroll bar in that page. Was I being wrong?
You validated it on.
I just validated if that page has an horizontal scroll bar at 400%.
Yeah, but
there are,
so
yeah.
when you validate one page, the validation is applicable only for that page. So you can't validate one page and tell this website passes this
No, my
success
question
criteria.
is my question is how do I validate that reflow? So how I did was I just validated whether if that particular page has a horizontal scroll bar at 400%.
Okay.
You were getting my point. So how did I test it? I tested it by checking if there is a horizontal scroll bar and everything was reflowed or properly or not. That was the only thing I validated. Is there anything that I was missing?
I
Yeah,
don't
you
think
have
so.
to,
I think
you
what
have
you need
to,
to like test, when you change the viewport size, the font size should be big enough. It should not shrink, or it should grow based on the font viewport size. And your UI should not break on different viewport size. Horizontal scroll is not there, which means your content is reflowing, which is good. But you should also check like it's
On the
not like that
phone.
some content is hidden because of the overflow, or some content is not showing up, or it is not reachable when you are using it on mobile, even though reflow is there. Let's say there is a
So
modern.
whatever answer you
I
said just
I guess
now,
No.
whatever answer you said just now, so what difference is there with 200 font magnification and 400 reflow?
1 minute, whoever is it, 1 minute, 1 minute. I think Satish is the expert here on 2.1 because
Okay.
he has done enormous amount of work with the WCAG 2.1. Satish, can you elaborate a little bit on the reflow once
okay.
and how to test it also, Satish, the test methodology?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So the first thing is, okay, so so the reflow talks about how the user, first of all, when you zoom the page to 400%, or say, for example, as I told you, if the user views the same content on an iPhone 4.7 screen, say iPhone 5s or 5SE for that matter, okay. One is, as Sudhanshu said, the content is there any content that goes to the right side where the user is not going to be able to read the content at all. Okay, so too much of, so one is horizontal scroll bar should not be there with relevant to English particularly, or any language that you write from left to right. Okay. Uh, the second point that you need to note down is any of the functionality broken because you zoomed it to 400%? That is another thing that you need to test. And then any content that is again lost. So for example, there is a chance that entire paragraph is gone at all, completely, because I zoomed it to 400% or I viewed it through a mobile site. Now, there may be another question. So on a page, for example, there is a page wherein you have two or three functionalities. Like you say, drag and drop is available in a normal site, whereas in the when I zoom it to 400%, drag and drop is not available. It's okay if if you provide an alternative method to do the, even if the drag and drop is available, you can simply click an option and select something. That is absolutely fine. But the only thing that should not hinder the user from accessing it is there is no functionality at all for the users to interact. If that is the case, that uh, that checkpoint actually fails on the page or on the site itself. So one, as I said, the first is no horizontal bar. Second is the user must be able to vertically scroll down the page to see all the content that was available in the 100% zoom. If you specifically say, no, I'm not going to provide a particular section in the RWD mode, that's absolutely fine. But that shouldn't, but you can say even on the PDP page or product details page, if you say that, no, I will not show the user product description, then obviously the user cannot decide on whether you should buy a product or not. So you should decide on that first of all. So RWD mode must contain the essential functionality that is there in the 400 with the 100% zoom tool. And third is there should be no content or functionality loss when I zoom to 400%. So now, what is the testing methodology here? So the ideal way is to test it with a device which has 320 into 480 pixels. That is the CSS pixels that has been specified in WCAG, because that is the minimal size of a phone that is there in the market as of now, or maybe during the time when they develop this checkpoint. Okay, so if that is not possible at all, I don't have a device to test it that way. In that case, that is absolutely fine. So you can just, if you want to test it in Firefox, just press Control Shift M and choose responsive mode.
Could you repeat that again? Control
plus Shift plus M. M for marriage. Okay. Yeah, M for whatever, mango. Okay, so Control plus Shift plus M is the keystroke to go to 400% zoom. So automatically it will go to 400%. So by default, the pixel size will be 320 by 480. That is the 400% zoom size in Firefox actually. Unless you change it, you choose another device, it is going to be the same way. Okay, and in Chrome also, what you should do is go to the developer mode, toggle the device switch on, and then do not choose any device, just make it as RWD. Or else you can set it to 320 by 480. That is the ideal pixel viewport size that we need to have, and then test it. So as I said, the ideal way to test it is doing on a device, but that's not mandatory. That's not mandated anywhere in WCAG or any other place. So you can just take your browser zoom to 400% this way, and then you can just test whether the content, when you scroll vertically, you have all the content that is there, whether anything is getting cut off or any functionality is broken, and all that. And does the user have to really scroll to the extreme right or something like that to view the content? So if the user need not scroll at all, so the best way is to truncate the text appropriately, and then you have to make sure that if some content is not possible to be vertically scrollable, you can make a small modal or a flyout or some kind of design patterns, and all that. So obviously there are some exceptions too in this case that we need to be aware of it. So one is a two-dimensional table. Okay, a table wherein you have say 8 to 10 columns. Obviously, the table is going to break in 400 pixels, 400% zoom. So that is an exception. The video caption is an exception again in the 400% zoom. And charts, any pie charts or any bar graphs or anything that requires anything that requires a two-dimensional scrolling is an exception. So there, if such content exists in the website, you don't need to really test for that in the 400%.
Okay. So the point what I was trying to make was how different is then 200 zoom from 400 reflow. We do the same thing for 200 also. Is there anything that I'm missing?
200 zoom, you can horizontally scroll.
Yes.
200 zoom you can have an horizontal
Yeah.
zoom. Okay.
And the second thing is actual 200% zoom should not go to an RWD mode, ideally.
Yes.
Could you repeat that again?
The
Actual
200 in 200 zoom, it should not move into responsive design mode. It should
Okay.
start kicking it at 201.
Okay.
That's
So,
the ideal method.
let's just say, uh, when you move it into 200% zoom, uh, it moves into responsive design, and you even lose a single icon. It's a failure of that checkpoint.
Okay. So if I'll repeat it again. So you are saying till 200% there can be an horizontal scroll bar, and all the design should not move into a responsive mode at 200%.
See, it's not must.
Okay.
So if functionality and content is still same, like in 200 zoom, what happens is, like, more often it moves into responsive design, and RWD kicks in, like, and what is happening lately is, the hamburger menu comes in. So
Exactly.
that is not a failure yet. Okay. But if there is loss of content, or mostly what is happening is, what we are seeing right now is, the header part of the web page is changing. Like, the hamburger menu comes in, but there might be some images, or some kind of icons, or a logo change, or anything. So that is considered as functionality failure. There is change of functionality. So the checkpoint says no loss of content, no loss of functionality at 200% zoom. So if functionality or content is lost,
Okay.
it's a fail.
Okay. Thank you
So
so much.
yeah.
Actually, all this while I was assuming that there should be no horizontal scroll bar at
So
200 as well.
yeah.
So
And
generally,
200% zoom is 2.0, 400% is 2.1. There is that distinguishing thing also. Like, if someone asks you to do accessibility testing for 2.0, you don't do the reflow for, because it is part of 2.1.
so there is another thing that I would like to stress here.
Yes.
200% is specific to desktop, whereas 400% zoom is not specific to desktop.
It's
Oh,
mobile,
It's
okay.
mobile.
because
Ideally,
320
it's a mobile.
320 yeah, 320 by 480 is mobile.
Okay. 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 Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, because we what's next on our agenda?
Yeah, so next we have is role of semantics in accessibility, which I think we have
We have covered.
covered, right? And now this is like how tab and keyboard navigation, which the experience we can improve. So
So, here is something which I wanted to focus on. First of all, having a keyboard support for all of our interactive elements is kind of a must. And like people should be able to go anywhere on the site through like a tab navigation, or like a on any if it is a drop down, then probably he can select the option through arrows. If it is a multi level drop down, then he can drill down through left arrow, and he can come back through right arrow. So those all keyboard interactions is a must. But something which we forget is showing the user that while you are navigating through keyboard, um, what is the active element, and showing him like if you are opening a drop down, because in assisted type you might go on some element with a keyboard navigation, but you might not open the drop down. It might be hidden with something else. So there are things where we have to uh, not just make for screen readers, also for like who can probably we can see that. So there should be some visual effect if there is a we are navigating through keyboard.
yeah,
So
so
there is one example which we can show. Probably Vikas can share that.
I think first I think we can little bit elaborate on what you were explaining. So most common thing like we as developer do is like we remove outline from everywhere. First thing we do, right? Because we don't
Oh, that
want
was
to
agree.
when we users like OS to show like they are outline when somebody is hovering on a beautifully
Uh,
designed button.
Not hovering. It's mostly on active. Whenever you click,
Like
whenever
on
you click,
so basically when you like click on it, the active pseudo element is triggered and you can see the border sometimes. So what normally people do is like they remove it, and but what it does is like when somebody is trying to tap through the site, the interactive element doesn't like show any cue that they are focused on this moment. So if you tap through, you won't know where you are in a web page. So for that, what is like a new common method is one thing is like there is a focus within a property in CSS which can be used, but that doesn't
no,
have much.
focus within um, that is not for keyboard navigation, right?
That
That is
is
for focus tapping.
yeah, okay. uh, no, wait, okay, I'm not clear, so I will just move on to like what we were explaining here, that so normally what we want to do is like we want to detect when somebody is tabbing through our web page, and then only we should be showing outline for our interactive elements. So for that we have some little bit of code.
So basically, we want two different state. One while user is interacting the site with keyboard, it should have that outline. But while user is interacting with mouse, that time we probably don't need that outline.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, you need it.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Uh, but
So,
is it required? Like, why it is required?
so suppose let's say a low vision user is there. So what low vision
Mhm.
people do is like they use a magnifier on the screen.
Mhm.
So when they use mouse, okay, and if there is no that style change when they are interacting with the interactive element, they will not
Mhm.
know, because they rely on that color difference.
So yeah, Raghavendra, what I think what we were saying is like for hover and focus we
So
have style change, but that is like there is change, but outline is normally people remove, like most designer
yeah,
don't agree with
outline,
them.
no,
Yeah,
normally outline will be none, okay.
yeah,
Outline colon none, but outline colon should be never be none, it should be underline. So the links should always have an outline of underline.
yeah. No, I think text
But
decoration underline will work for links.
but there are buttons as well where people usually, so there are active state like people do change the background of button, but they just remove the what we say the outline. And when you are tabbing, when you are navigating through keyboard, uh, those changes are very subtle. So if your focus is on that particular element, your attention goes to the background change. But if you are just navigating through keyboard, then probably we don't know that whether something has been changed on our page at all. So that is where like a outline, having outline makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like good idea would be like for a link we have underlines, for
Yep.
button we change the background, for input we have different kind of focus style. But if somebody is interactive through tab, we can enable outline for every interactive element, and that way it would be like very much clear
That
like
goes,
which
that
element
answer
they are
goes
on.
directly to there.
Raghavendra, you were saying something? Hello.
Uh, I
No,
think
no, we didn't say anything.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah, that is like this is like enhancement for like when somebody is tabbing through, make the interactive element super visible, or like have the common focus for all interactive element for common style, so user is aware of all the time where they are. So this is like some dummy code for that, and this is a library which we use keyboard shortcut .bind, but we can simply add an event listener and which listen for the tab key press, and for the and when does and if somebody is tabbing through, we just set a state to true. Let's call it keyboard active here. And based on that, we can add a class on a root level on body, and then we can scope our style for that. So normally the focus, the outline will be none. But if the class is there, then the focus can be set to any outline. So this way, when somebody is interacting with the mouse, they won't see the outline. The normal change in the background or any other way will be there, or the box shadow. But when somebody is interacting through keyboard, so during tabbing, they will be able to see all the highlight elements where their focus is at the moment. So this is like a dummy code for that. But there are many other ways which you can use to do that. Or you can have proper outlines by default, so you don't even need to do that. But that is not the case for the most web pages. Anybody have anything to say or discuss about this?
First of all, how many of you have removed outline from these elements on your organization?
Or I think better question would be how many of you haven't?
I have removed.
I haven't.
Yeah, right. Good to know few people.
So the reason being is because most of the times what we do is like it most of the time plays with the style. So we generally don't remove it. We just give a different like our own styling in case of outline.
There is a issue like we have a focal outline and there is an border change color. So we generally what do we make it border color change and outline none.
Yeah, so if the border size is big, then probably it is noticeable. But generally what happens, like if it is a subtle color change, so when your focus is on that element, then it makes sense. But if you're tabbing, that time your focus is not on that particular element. You don't know where your current focus element is there. So that time having this outline make a lot of sense. And outline is generally 3 to 5 pixel with like a high contrast colors. So those are highly visible, like noticeable while you're tabbing.
So what if we just change the style of the outline?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
And it is, I think, Raghavendra might agree, but like this is a common, like we should override the default outlines to better color, which is suitable to our background, like background of our website, because sometimes the OS, which like default outlines with the browser provides are not very clear in some backgrounds.
Okay.
So we should try to like give a proper outline for our web content, which is like properly visible against the background or the surrounding elements. Somebody is moving the heading.
Sorry, I was trying to tap.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like about the making our elements accessible when keyboard navigation. And I think the next thing is like focus trapping, which is relevant to the model. So I will just edit it. Focus trap in models.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it the right time to ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what we are doing is we are also developing some apps for television and all, right? GeoFiber and all.
Yeah.
So now the accessibility parameters do not change with the device, I guess, right?
It depends. Like some OS have different guidelines. So like the web content accessibility guideline doesn't apply on the iOS apps, I guess. Raghavendra, is it correct?
Satish is here.
Sorry, what is your question?
So the web accessibility, web content accessibility guideline, do they apply on the OS apps like iOS apps, Android apps, or TV apps?
No.
No, they have their own guidelines, right?
No, it's not like that. So we cannot access the operating system using web WCAG, but we can access the app that is installed on that.
Okay. So if
For example,
some app is okay, you go on.
For example, I cannot access the iOS the 13.4 that has got released.
Okay.
But I can access say WhatsApp or any other app that is installed on that, or my Airtel, for example, I can
Okay.
access using WCAG 2.0.
Okay. So apps are like part of the app itself. The content of app is like falls under the WCAG guidelines, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that answers the question. Like if you are developing for the TV or any other devices, you need to follow the criteria, although you need to like improvise a little bit based on like the devices you are doing, but the criteria remains the same.
So all the images should have a alt tag and all those things
Yeah,
should be
because
there.
you don't know, like there can be an issue where the image is not loading for any issue, maybe slow
True.
internet. So
True.
it is good to show like alternative text what that image was there. The similar to Netflix, right? Like if
The
the
Yeah.
that poster is not loading, there should be text, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to add one more thing, like that WCG doesn't talk about the technology that you are using. So for example, now when you say all images should have all tags, so obviously if you're developing an iOS app using Facebook UI, so how you provide an alt text, instead of saying alt text, I would say text alternative. Alt text is still an attribute that is relevant to HTML. So how you provide the text alternative doesn't matter. All that matters is, are you providing a text alternative? That's all.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about the focus trap in model. So does anybody want to discuss what this is? Like, why do we need to trap the focus in the models? Or what are the model or dialogues? Okay.
Yeah.
Raghavendra, do you want to?
I think Raghavendra.
I'm here.
Okay.
I just stepped out for 5 minutes and I came back.
Yeah, okay. We were talking about the focus trapping in model. So like, do you want to explain like why it is required?
Let Satish explain it.
Okay.
That's
I
fine.
can also explain if like there's
I
no.
know.
Yeah. I was just thinking like if
No,
everybody should chime in, like. Or
I'm a little tired. I'm just
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
to step off now.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Aditya, there? Should I
Yeah.
ask people? Do you want to?
Explain focus trapping.
No, like why we need to do that?
Focus trapping. So in the sense like, so if I opened a model and I am tabbing and so the close button is on the top, but now I am on the third link in the model, and then I tab again so that I can go to the first. What will happen is like after the last link, it will move outside the model. So that's why what you want is like when the model is open, the tab should like loop inside the model only and not exit outside the outside links.
Okay, yeah, that is the correct. And that is, I will add to that, like what will happen if somebody can go outside your model? So there is a reason you are opening that model, right? You want user to take some action before go back to accessing your site, right? So let's say if they are saving, you want to confirm something, like do you want to save the changes? And if on tabbing user can still access the content which is behind the model window, so there's no point of having model window because we actually want to take user some action. So until user has explicitly pressed escape key or selected an option provided in the model, we should not allow user to interact with our site. The only interactive part in our web page should be the model window. So that's why we need to trap the focus. So users, so normally for mouse users, what we do is like we have an overlay, and when so because of overlay, user can't click on the sites, right? Or click on the link or any interactive element. So same we need to do for the keyboard navigation. So when somebody is tabbing, what we need to do is like we want to get them back in the model when they reach the last element, or when they are reverse tabbing, when they are on the first on the tab, they should go to the last element of the model and not in the main web page. So that is what the focus trapping is. Anybody has any question on this?
Hi, Shivan.
Sorry.
Yeah, hi, Ravi here. See, basically, what you are explaining is as per like 2.1 success criteria. So now you actually gave a good example for the modal dialogue, but just to like to add, like it actually applies for all the sections of the pages, like whether we are talking about the drop downs or menus, or for that matter anything, like wherever we have interaction with the pages through keyboard, only through keyboard, not through mouse, like only through keyboard. So when the user is interacting the drop down, so he should be able to press the relevant keyboard shortcut to come out of that particular element, and he should be able to proceed to the next part of the page, section of the page.
Yeah, I think yeah, this like dialogue is very common term for
Yes.
any like drop downs and menu items which are like overlay, right?
Yes, so it should apply to all the sections, all the interactive elements, whether we are talking about the tabs or even menus or drop downs anywhere. It should not happen that the user is pressing the tab key and he is not able to proceed to the next section of the page.
Yeah, like there is a way, there should be
No,
a way
Ravi,
to escape from the
Yes.
no,
overlay element, right?
Ravi, actually, what they are talking about is not the keyboard trap. They are talking about focus being trapped into a model.
Yeah. So
So,
focus
so
itself.
what? No, no, 1 minute. So what he is saying is, what you are saying is the user should not be trapped within one section. But
Hmm.
what he's talking about is when you open a model,
Hmm.
right, which is very specifically mentioned in WCAG 2.0 focus order. So
Hmm.
when you
Hmm.
open a model dialog,
Hmm.
okay, the user should not be able to go out of the model until
Okay.
he dismisses the model.
Right. Absolutely
Okay,
right. So.
okay.
Hmm.
So what? Yeah. So when you so what? Why it is very important in this case is that, so for example, the parent content is dimmed already for a sighted user, uh, or a non-disabled user. He or she knows that the parent content is dimmed. Whereas the keyboard user, don't. I'm not talking about the screen reader user alone. Any keyboard only user who cannot use a mouse at all.
Hmm.
Okay, the focus goes out of the model to the parent content. Obviously, there will be no focus indicators because it's dimmed. So the user would be at loss as to where he is or she is as of now.
Right. So what I'm saying is, Satish, is that modal dialogue, yes, is can be an example for both, for the keyboard trap as well as for the focus order. It's for applies for the both.
No, but modal focus can be trapped. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
keyboard
Yes.
trap is what you are saying, that when if I'm tabbing in any section, I should
Hmm.
be able to tag to the next section.
Hmm.
Otherwise, otherwise it fails 2.1.2, that is keyboard trap.
Yes.
What
Yes.
Sudhanshu is trying to talk about is only about the focus order.
Focus order. Yeah. Correct.
Also, I think in a drop down and other sections, we don't trap focus. It's just that we have a different keyboard navigation to loop on, if it is a drop down options, then probably we will be doing with the arrow up and down, and it should loop there. But if we do tab, then we should be able to come out of the drop downs. So
Yes.
Yeah.
drop down
But
doesn't.
but in a real world scenario, there are lots of examples out there wherein such a violation is happening. So just I thought
Okay,
I
okay,
can,
okay.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So their trapping shouldn't happen. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the idea why we need the focus trap, and now we have like little code to show like how
One
we
more
do that.
question.
Okay,
One more question. If I am on the last element of the page,
okay.
and if I do tab, it should go to the first one element of the web page or the URL.
It should go to the browser Chrome, like the
Hmm.
browser option, as you said, the URL and the bookmarks and the menu options.
Okay, thank you.
So, hi, Rupesh here. One question.
Yeah.
So when the model is open, if I use a JAWS, so extraneous elements are listed in the links list. So how do you say this one?
Okay, can you repeat it? There was some noise on my end.
So when I'm using a JAWS links list during the model open, so
Okay.
background page elements are also listed in a links list.
Okay.
So how do you say this? Do you
So
feel
no,
this?
yeah. So when normally a model or dialog is open, we should disable the interactive elements that you can achieve by providing tab index, negative tab index, or uh, passing a disabled attribute, or there is a ARIA attribute which I'm forgetting, which you can pass. So that way assistive text should know like a model is open, and all other elements which are behind this model are not ready to access.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the most common way is to like provide a negative tab index to say, okay, these are not interactive. So when your assistive tech will not be able to like parse it as interactive element.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
So
we could
when
focus
dialog is
on
open, where should be the default focus?
So when the dialog open, default focus should be on the least destructive element.
I'm sorry.
So normally you can say like when model is open, it says like, do you want to proceed without saving? So it should be either on the close button, or there is option should be dismiss or cancel, or any other element instead of have on yes. It's like if it has two options, it should be on the least destructive option.
or if there is any input, probably the first focusable element,
Yeah.
and least destructive
Yeah.
element.
So like if you are opening a dialog which has input field or any radio buttons or checkbox, so it should be focused on that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Or basic most common is like if your model window is open, consider it is a web page in itself, and the first tabbable or interactive element, whatever comes in mind. But if the first element is destructive, then focus on someone else.
I have a question here. So there is a ARIA role, dialogue, and model, right? And
Yeah.
if we provide that, does it tell assistive tech, maybe screen reader, that now the dialogue is open, and uh, don't navigate or don't announce anything outside of this dialogue? Does it happen, or
No.
Ideally, that is the behavior.
Okay.
That is expected of ARIA model attribute, which is an ARIA 1.1 1.1 attribute. Unfortunately, screen readers are not current. Not all the screen readers are supporting that attribute as of now.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have in fact two questions. So first one is that I believe this is a best practice that to hide all the elements which are there in the background when the modal window is open. I believe there is no such criteria for that, right?
No,
Satish?
so it's not like to hide the element. It's more like to make them non-interactable. So, but the other way which we are discussing here is instead of doing that, you can just trap the focus and have an overlay so user can't click through. That will also work.
No, because actually what happens, when you open the list of any element list, be it headings or links, in
Yeah.
the modal, so you are able to actually see the same elements even if the modal window is open, the background links and the headings. So
Okay.
my concern is that I believe this is like a best practice where you are just keeping these elements like hidden so that there's no such confusion for the user when he's
I
reading
don't
the.
think there is any guideline to hide the background element, but visually normally what user do is like they keep an opaque overlay.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you, like, what I feel is, see, this is a part of a technique, actually. Like, we have
Yeah.
the different techniques. It's not necessarily the guideline, but it's a technique through which you are supposed to be making the dialogues accessible, that the background elements is not. I think you can get a good example. Yeah.
So how much preference shall we give it to, like, sometimes it becomes a challenge for some clients to understand, sometimes they are not able to fix it up because of the liabilities of the component being used, or maybe the custom made model windows being implemented.
Yeah,
So
say the basic idea being that for the modal dialogue, so there are different types of modal dialogues. So one type of modal dialogue is like you're not able to be interacting with a background. You're not supposed to be doing that. Okay, a few modal dialogues you're supposed to be. So it depends very much on the case to case basis. It's not like one rule fits all kind of a
So
thing. So you have to see the whole UI and then decide. Yeah.
I guess whenever there is like we call something a model or a dialogue, when we want some action to be taken before proceeding to the next thing. So model or dialogue should be blocking any interaction on the main page. So model and dialogue are just like a page, you can say, not subpage, but a subsection which you are currently interacting with. So that should be default behavior everywhere. That is my perspective. And Satish, is this also a guideline, W3C guideline, or we can?
No, actually, Sudhanshu, we can use dialog, let's say for cookies banner. We can use it where user can interact with the web page and they can also
But
interact with.
cookie banners are not dialogue, right? Cookie banners are more of a what do you say, the alert. Uh,
See,
al-
I'll tell you simple actually how to look at it. Very simple. That if it's a general user perspective, you are looking at the site, and you are seeing a modal dialog, wherein as soon as the dialog is open, the user is not able to interact with the pages, the background section. The similar ways is how exactly the screen reader user also the page should appear. It should not be it should be the implementation should be the same.
yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
So another question, just to on the same lines. So let's say there are, if I want to address this problem, so would it be possible for the dev to kind of, if the component is being used everywhere the same way, so it would be possible to kind of adjust it, and it should be implemented for all the dialogues which are there within the application, right?
So yes, it should be like this functionality should be part of your component, the model or dialog component.
Okay.
If you are using a third-party component, you should make sure like they have this functionality implemented. Otherwise, like choose another option or
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I think these days the implementations usually have taken what happens is for the modal dialogues, wherever it's implemented in the site, so they have a kind of like a common code. So you have to
Absolutely.
inject this accessibility in that particular common code, because it's not like for one page you have a separate set of code for modal dialogues, and for the other pages you have a separate set. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it should be part of your like your model or dialog component.
Exactly, the coding libraries which you are
Yeah.
using, which you are implementing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So shall we like look at like some dummy code, like how you can implement it if you are writing a component yourself?
Yeah.
Come again?
So like we have some code here, which is like how if you are creating your own model or dialog component, how to do the focus trapping. So what we do is like normally we have some kind of trigger which tells us when a model or dialog is open. So this is a React code where like we are passing a function here, like when the dialog is open, trigger this function. On there we have one event listener attached. Again, you can use your like native add event listener, and or just look for the key code. First, you have to bind the but add the event listener first. So we have here bound the tab event listener. So whenever the tab key is pressed, this on tab function will be called. And in on tab here, first what we are doing, so we have this model reference, which is like reference to the node in DOM. So if we don't have model reference, just don't do anything. But if we have the model reference, try first. What we are doing here is trying to get all the focusable elements. And okay, so code is not here for the focusable element. Okay. So the focusable elements should be like anchor tag, input, text area, elements which are provided non-positive tab index 0, 1, 2, 3, embed, iframes, and input, yeah, button, links. So these are all focusable elements, and any custom elements you pass in there. And what we do then, that we
Find out the first and last.
Yeah, so we assign the first focusable element to the first element of the array, and the last focusable element to the last element of the array. So this way we know like which are our first and last element inside the model, and not everywhere. And after that, this is just a code, like when shift, the tab is pressed with the shift. So, and your active element is the first element. What we do, we need to cycle. So we make the next focusable element, which is our last focusable element. So this way, when somebody presses the shift tab and our focusable element is the first element, the focus will go to the last element, so it will cycle. And same is here in the else condition. If a currently focused element is the last focusable element in the model, on tabbing, go to the first focusable element. And this code will make sure that our focus will always stay inside the model. And here we are just saying, like, if we have the two like focus element, like where to focus, then just focus on that element. This code should be make sure that your focus is always inside your this model reference, whatever DOM like this should normally be your wrapper of your dialog, like top level element, and where you should assign this reference, so your focus will be trapped. And Sudhanshu has also posted a link where there is a new approach to trap the focus, which is like kind of a hack, so you should go and yeah, read it out.
Yeah, so it's like you can do it with just CSS only as well, but it's not supported across browser. So I posted a link. The author has explained it very well, that how we can do with the CSS only approach. But yeah,
like there is a little bit of JavaScript still needed, but it is like not this much.
Yeah, yeah.
So anybody have any questions or doubts or any input? Okay, so moving on to impacts of using Unicode and icons and emojis. So Satish?
Satish is not.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody wants to like explain what can be the impact of Unicodes and emojis?
Actually, because
yeah,
you had a tool, right, where the Twitter, if people do a lot of emojis,
yeah.
how it is announced on screen readers.
Yeah, I think like we can do that with the screen reader right now. Like I don't have the tweet bookmarked. I don't know if I sent it to someone.
Is just post a tweet and then.
I think, but yeah, this is like a common. How do I do it? Like this will take. Should we do the demo? I don't know. We can just press some emojis here, right?
Yeah, go on the emoji site and then on the emoji site.
I have this emoji translator. Okay, so this here, what does it like? Yeah, so this is like text, OMG, the house is on fire and cat is eating all the donuts. And they have translated it to the emojis. And if we just do, again, I have to enable my screen reader, which will, okay, can I explain it just so I'm sure it is a little tricky. So basically what we all have seen the like Twitter patterns where there are a lot of emojis, or the clapping, like you and then clap emoji, you should and clap emoji, right, clap emoji. So as you can see how I'm explaining the tweet to you, that's how the screen reader reads the tweet itself. The same way, like it is hard to explain to someone like how the emoji tweet looks like. So same impact goes where somebody who is using assistive tech and goes through the content which has a lot of emojis. So what the screen reader will do, it will describe each emoji. So when you show a simple clap hand emoji, it will read full name, which is like clap hand emoji. And if you are using 10 in a row, all 10 will be announced before the next content.
And inside clap hand as well, it will define the color tone of that.
Yeah, color tone. Yeah.
So it becomes a big sentence.
So this affects like how users go through the content, because like this is like a lot of garbage. So we should avoid doing that. And same with the Unicode. So in Twitter, we must have seen, or in any other site, we have like strike through test or some other kind of formatted text which is normally Twitter doesn't allow. You have to copy it from somewhere. So normally it is the Unicode, and assistive texts are normally not being able to understand what it is. So if you are writing a text, it's like you should not do this, and you have a strike through the not. So sighted user can see that you want users to not do this because you have a strike through the not, but assistive will read is like you should do this because not is not there. They will assistive text will just ignore the Unicode. So the meaning is totally changed. So we should also avoid Unicodes for same reason.
Because let's, I think we'll go out of time. So let's park 8th and 9 part of agenda. We will discuss on the tooling part a little bit, and then
Okay.
we can open for questions.
Okay.
And we will just
Sounds good.
because
Let's
8th and
go.
9 are like a little bit bigger
Yeah,
topic itself.
sure.
Yep.
So let's just go through the tooling part. So this is like for regarding for the developers when they are like when you are writing code, like how to make sure like so whatever we are writing is accessible for everyone. So there are like many methods. You need to test it with the keyboard. You need to test it with the skin reader combinations. Different skin readers are there, and there are two of the major ones are like NVDA and JAWS, and voiceover is there for macOS. So these are all kind of testing which is required. But if even if you can't do that, there are some basic things which you can integrate in your development tooling, which will help you write accessible code. The one is pretty common and very easy to use is like ESLint plugin, JS accessibility, JXS A11Y. And if you can see the screenshot, it is just shows the underline on an what your code and tells you what are the issues with whatever you have written. So here we can see is like we have added a on-click handler on a div. And so what rules we are making is like visible and non-interactive elements with click handlers must have keyword event listener. So what actually will happen if we push this code on prod, that visual user and sighted user can click on this div and it will work. But if somebody is using keyboard, they won't be able to activate this element because keyword event listener is not there. But if you are using a button, it will have the keyword listener. So you should use native elements. And another problem is static HTML elements with event handler require a role. So all the interactive elements have some kind of role, right? Like button or link or input. So here we should provide a role. If we are treating as a button, we should have role button and an event listener.
Or just use button, right?
Or just use button, yeah. Because otherwise we'll need one event listener for the keyboard, then role button, then we need to provide styling for the focus. Yeah.
Or tab index as well.
Tab index as well, yes. So that's all you need to do, or you can just use native elements, which would be much helpful and easy to maintain. And then there are another tool is like ReactX, which is written on top of Xcode, developed by DK Labs. And you can again integrate in your tooling. This is like code to do, like how to do that. You can first you have to like pass it in your webpack config, and then your root component, you can just enable it and you can hide it behind a flag so it doesn't run every time because it cause lags in your development. And once you have enabled it, you can just use enable accessibility equal to 1 or whatever flag you have set, and then just start the server. And you will see this kind of issues in your browser console. So again, this is helpful because even if you have fixed some issues on your editor, which were caught by this linter, this will not catch issues of the component which are, because it is like it just do the static checking. But here the code will be actually rendered, so whatever the components you are using, they were actually rendered, and this will be able to catch those issues. And also the color contrast, it will be able to catch here. So you can again go ahead and see the level of seriousness, like is it moderate or is it critical. You can then fix them, and you can read more about them. They also provide helpful hints. And after that, like you have written the code and you have also tested in the browser, you can write one unit test for it, which is just simply checks for the accessibility violations. So we have published one library, enzyme chai accessibility. We'll talk about it little later. First, let's see how to do it with the Xcode. So this is all the code. We'll share this link so you can check how to do that. I will not go through the code.
I'll share the link. You can.
Yeah, okay. Best. Okay. So here, like you have to write functions and do all the things, and then you can test it with like assessment, like you should not violate any accessibility rules. And then you pass your component inside this utility function, and whatever the results are, it will be an array, and you can just make sure that it should be accessible. We have defined one accessible method in our chai library, which assertion assert for the violations of, and we now the library part. So we have encapsulate all of this in a library which we have published. So you can just use that. You can just use the audit accessibility function and the accessible assertion, and simply write unit test for your UI component. So if somebody modifies that component in future and doesn't go through all these checks, like for some reason they don't have ESLint enabled in their editor, or they don't test it in the browser, our unit test will fail if there is any violations. So this should help with little bit of or the catching in the most common issues. We still need to test it with the assistive text or the keyword navigation ourselves. The user testing is still required, but this should help with like most common issues. And yeah, so this is the library we have published. Yeah, so this is like mostly about the tooling.
So yeah, anyone have a question on the tooling side?
I don't think anybody else, anybody have any issues. Anybody have any kind of question? I think we are running out of time. Like in general, any questions, anything they need to add, not even question, any remarks?
Okay, hey everyone. Yeah, this is Subhash. I have a question around that focus trap, right?
Okay.
So I saw the code you had written in JavaScript to just look through all the focusable elements inside the model, right? So
yeah,
I'm just thinking, so why can't you use area hidden, which is a helpful attribute, right? If you set to the body element or the wrapper in the background, that should solve this focus issue, right? Why we need to have this JavaScript?
first thing, like
it will still work.
Yeah, your tab will still work. It will just hide for the screen reader where it is supported. And ARIA hidden is like not well supported in all assistive text. So it still will be issue. Like this should be used with combine of other technologies. Like this should be paired with the ARIA levels, ARIA attributes, and we should hide other interactive elements. So like this is not a standalone solution.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think ARIA hidden is, as of now, it's supported in most of the browsers screen reader combinations. So how can you say that? Because it has been there for some time now.
Yeah. So
yeah, like I'm not claiming it is not supported. I'm just saying it like I have not tested in all.
I think yeah. See, basically, if we are going as per one screen reader browser combination, and we need to check, like suppose a client has got a particular requirement, right? Say in Firefox, which is well supported, and for them actually they are actually updating quite frequently. Even Chrome, for that matter.
Yeah.
IE11, I do understand that they have a constraint because there's like still that they have a legacy, but other than that, as of now, whatever the browsers which are coming in the market, so they have a really good support for ARIA, right? Implementations.
But I'm still not sure, like adding ARIA hidden on the body will make sure that you can't interact with the elements.
See, basically what he's saying is like, if it's a modal dialog, so modal dialogs, whatever is there in the front end, so what he's kind of saying is with the JavaScript code, we can hide the background, whatever is there at the background, as long as the modal dialog is activated, and as soon as you close the modal dialog, so
Not exactly.
You
Sorry.
turn off. Yeah. So you can toggle ARIA hidden. That's what. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
Yeah, we can use leverage ARIA hidden to achieve this functionality. So I just
Right.
put a link
Right.
in the chat bar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
so
it will take that, yeah.
I think the ARIA hidden thing has
Aria inert would work. Yeah, this link I can see Aria inert, but
Yeah,
again,
inert. No, it's in it's a combination basically. So
yeah,
if ARIA inert is a new attribute, right? It is not supported in all the browsers, so we can use like wisely whether
yeah.
ARIA inert or hidden
So
based
yeah,
on the
like
browser.
that's what I was saying. Like we can use it with like combination with other attributes.
okay. I have a question here.
See,
So
one problem I see is that in ARIA they keep on kind of deprecating the existing role states properties and come up with the new ones. Like so, it is there. It has happened now for a long time. Some of the properties which they have right now, they will deprecate it after a while, next versions and things like that. Like so, the ideal would be that as per the current scenario, what is actually running out. Okay, and might be in the next round of remediation, revalidation, you can insert the new things which are supported. But the main idea being that you have to get it tested by the tested and get it revalidated that yeah, in the current scenarios it is working fine.
okay, so here one point I wanted to add. ARIA attributes will help you with the assistive tag of maybe screen
Yes.
reader, but here this one solves the keyboard navigation thing as well. Let's say you're not using assistive tag, you are just doing keyboard navigation.
Right. See,
It still works. Still
no
works.
matter how many ARIA attributes we keep on using it, we can inject as much ARIA attributes in a page, but at the end of the day, what is the end goal we want to achieve is accessibility.
Yep.
So no matter how many rounds we make, but at the end of the day, what comes to the conclusion is the semantic HTML comes to the rescue. The latest standard for HTML5, whatever that they have come up with, is the ideal scenario. The best support. When we say button and a role is equals to button, they are totally two different things. Even in accessibility tree, also that's the scenario. So as long as we stick to the fact that ARIA is just a substitute, the main thing cannot be taken away for any of the elements. That solves the problem.
Yeah, so this is like a keyboard trapping. The link which he posted, right? I'm trying to tab away out of it, and it's going. The focus is going outside of our dialogue.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it would help on assistive
Yes.
tag, like screen readers. But for a general uses, for keyboard navigation, you still need this code. So you need to have both ARIA attribute plus this code
Yeah.
to handle your keyboard navigation.
Absolutely. See, there are certain scenarios wherein you can't do away with ARIA. ARIA has to be there, then only
Yeah.
the problem gets solved. But in the long run, they have been saying it for many number of years now that yeah, we need to do away with ARIA. We need to do away with ARIA, but that's not happening.
So,
At least not for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
basically, there is a dialogue element itself, native element, which is not. I'm not sure if it is supported across browser, but the dialogue element will solve this focus trapping problem for you. So you don't have to manually add that. The dialogue itself takes care of it.
Yeah. See, even HTML5, they have, I think, I'm not sure, I didn't check the latest standards, but they had a proposal for adding the dialogue tag itself. Can somebody add?
That's what
Like,
Yeah, that is what Suyash was saying. Like there is a dialogue element. You
Yes,
can
yes.
just use that, but it is not well supported right now.
Right
Yes, I
now.
It is
think
like
one
hardly
thing
supported.
too, that background keeps scrolling. Like if you scroll, the background will scrolls also.
Yeah, that we also need to do. We haven't focused there. This is like one
Yeah,
part of
but
model.
it's like we like have to do that part as well. It's not like a fully proper model.
Which one you're talking?
The dialogue HTML element.
Like still like it's in like it's still developing. That's what.
What do you mean by fully modal? Fully modal, if that's what you're saying, is that we are not supposed to be interacting with the background elements?
Background element should not scroll. Like if there is if you scroll, then only inside the model it should scroll. The
Yes.
background content should not.
Should be non-interactive.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Should be non-interactive.
Yeah, I think dialog element doesn't support it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that is basically JavaScript, JS implementation. You have to
Okay.
see, dialog is just a tag. It's an HTML tag. At the end of the day, how you implement it, it's just a framework. It's a structure. How you implement what is the functionality that you want to implement is can be achieved only using JavaScript.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Sure.
we are over the time, I guess.
Yep. Cool. So, anyone else, or we should wrap this?
One thing is that I was checking the link which some Subhash shared, which was the ARIA inert thing.
Yeah.
So I think like our implementation has one bug which that is solving. So the thing is like because what we are doing is like when we tab after the last element, we
Yeah.
are going back to the first element. But ideally, what should happen is it should go to the browser focus.
So
So there is address bar,
this
etc.
is like very topic. So
Yeah.
WCAG guideline says it should be in the model, but our
Oh,
last implementation was like that, like you saying, na, that it would trap would win browser, Chrome, and the model. So like
yeah.
last element, after that it will go to browser, and after the last element of the browser UI, it will come into the model.
Yeah.
But this
So
is like
okay.
again there are like different opinion from
Oh,
different
okay.
experts.
So I
Some
was just
people
noticing
say,
the difference between like the person who has implemented this. So inner data is happening. So I was just wondering.
And also,
yeah,
um, uh, in Facebook or any other site, if you see their dialogues, they do trap it inside only. It doesn't go out of.
Oh,
yeah, but yeah, that's what as Sudhanshu also said, right? But this is
But
again like,
there must be some mechanism to close it, right? Am
yeah,
I correct?
escape
There
will
should
close
be an
it.
Escape
evacuation mechanism. Yes.
But imagine a case like there sometimes there's a dialog open and there is some form you need to fill, right? Okay, but you are filling the form and for some reason you need to go to another tab to check something, or you need to access your one of your bookmarks. But now since the focus is trapped, you can't go out. You have to close
right.
the model, then your input will be lost. It is like that.
So I
So that's why
like
some people prefer, like advocate, like model should allow user to go to the browser UI. But since the guidelines are not updated yet and they only say like it should be tabbed, people follow the guidelines.
oh, okay.
So the idea being that there should always be an escape mechanism. Like, okay, suppose in between itself, the user decides that he is not comfortable filling up the form, whatever.
Yep.
There should be an escape mechanism, whether it's an escape key or close button, whatever it is. There should
Right.
always be an escape mechanism.
Yeah, that should be there. Yes. Okay, cool.
Okay, so one last question I have. So, do you have any list of guidelines or the items to be taken care when we develop? Right. Basically, I am expecting, is there any list which helps
Yeah.
There's a
So
develop
I
checklist,
think
right?
there are
yeah.
somebody had shared a checklist, but the first thing you should go through like the WCAG guidelines, but they can be like pretty daunting and they are pretty much. So there is,
I'll tell you one thing. Can I say something? See, I'll
yeah,
tell you what simple. Okay, WCAG guidelines, WCAG, it's a vast. It's like a big
yeah,
ocean. Okay, so from that big ocean, we not need to catch one small fish. Okay, so for that, the best option is that, okay, from the developer's perspective, we have to see then go for the techniques. Okay, sufficient techniques. We have different sets of techniques: HTML techniques, CSS techniques, Java techniques.
somebody
You
already.
can search online. You'll see that there are really good examples online which are as per the WCAG's W3C recommendations, and they suggest that if such a several problem occurs, what's the solution from the developer's perspective. So I
Yeah.
think that suffices, because if you are going to be using that technique for solving the problem, then automatically you can say that a lot of the curve gets reduced in terms of accessibility implementation.
Yeah. And you can also go through the docs, the Google Doc, which we are sharing, and we have added some links there. So there is a checklist which covers like most of the things in like very short form. You can go through the checklist and
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the guidelines for accessibility. But my question was like, is there any guidelines for developer experience, better developer experience when it comes to
I
accessibility
think that
implementation.
was, I think we covered in the tooling. Like if you implement those tooling, most developers don't need to like go extra mile to fix something. Most common issues will be get caught. So if that's what you meant by the developer experience,
Yeah. So because I was observing this conversation, but sometimes I hear that we can't rely on the automated tools, right? For
yeah, we should not.
accessibility,
Yes.
right? So that's where it's contradicting. Let's whether I am going with X tool for testing accessibility or any other site improve, whatever plugins we have, again we can't rely on them, right? 100%. So
Yes, yes, we can't.
See, I'll tell you one thing. What happens is that when we consider testing, right? So these days, for most of the common issues, you are using X toolbar, X Chrome plugin for that matter, and there are many. There are many bookmarklets. You have different testing sites, applications. The idea being that you reduce the testing time. Okay, say 30% of the 40% of the issues can easily get trapped, can be taken care by this so-called tool.
Automated tool.
But at the end of the day, what gives the best feedback is through the manual round of assessment, manual testing done by the actual users who run their respective assistive technologies for assessing the site. Okay, who will actually give you the end feedback, and that's the best approach, according to me. There cannot be any excuse. You can run any number of tools in your site or application for that matter, but at the end of the day, is it accessible for the user? Is it really good? Does it actually gives that good usability? That is what I think Satish was giving example, right? That might be the site is having a lots of JavaScript code and that's it, and but it
Yeah.
is not accessible. Yeah,
So
so we
yeah,
should be really stay away from that.
yeah. In the end, like user testing is a must. So
Must.
and it would be best if you can get the real users to test, which is like usability testing, where you get it tested by the actual users with the different kind of disabilities.
I have seen lots of projects. What happens is, in order to save the budget, in order to save the time, what they will do is, okay, fine. Since the developers are doing it, they are the expert. Okay, best they go ahead and start using the automation tools and in order to make the sites accessible, and that's it. And, they feel that yeah, this is WCG compliant, it's conformant. But sorry to say, that's not correct. But because at the end of the day, the screen reader users have their own way of accessing the site, and once they do it, then the actual picture starts coming up that yeah, this is half the implementation, is half the implementation yet to go.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Ashish is saying it will be great if we can just give the summary for point number 8. So I will just get like 2-line summary for the client side routing. So what basically happens is like when you you do the client side routing using JavaScript, the sysdtext doesn't know where the focus is. Focus will always remain or the element. So if you are doing navigation and there are menu items and you click on the about section, your focus will always in the about section. So sysdtext wouldn't know the page has changed. And so how it is fixed is like you should be on every navigation, you should move the focus to the main content of the navigated page. And then, yeah, that is like the summary of client-side routing impact. So most of our JS apps are like, that's why they are inaccessible because the routing happens, but the CC text doesn't know the routing has happened. And issues with the infinite scroll. Satish, are you there?
I think he has dropped out.
So again, this is like when infinite scroll, assisted text suffers the most. Like they don't know the more content has been added because there's no clue for them. And so normally sighted user can scroll, and the more content can load it based on the scroll. But in assistive text, they don't have any event listener for the scrolling. They can't scroll. So it might happen that user are not able to load more content.
Yeah, so basically on those places, we should also have a load more button because the scrolling doesn't happen, the infinite scroll result is not coming. So if there is a load more, and then again, once you click the load more, your focus should go to the first element of the
Element, yeah.
newly added element. So a user is in the flow.
Yeah, that is like the summary. Okay, I think so, Anshu, we are
Cool. Cool. Thanks everyone
thanks
for
everyone.
Yeah, we'll post this we'll post the GitHub link and the doc as well on the Meetup group, and I'll post this recording. I'll upload it on YouTube and post the recording as well.
Okay.
So I had one actually question. So since I'm joining for the first time, so is this like a one-off thing, or like are we continuing with the same kind of a sessions in the future, or what's the plan?
So
Can somebody tell
this is
me?
the sixth meetup. Earlier we have discussed on internals of React Fiber architecture, internals
Oh,
of
great.
a V8 engine. We have
Mhm.
discussed on server side rendering and what are
Great.
happened there.
Okay.
So we have also discussed on Webpack, how Webpack internally works. So yeah, this is like a series of discussion, and mostly it goes around how internally things happen. The A11Y was something which we wanted, like just to make more people aware
Yeah.
about this thing. But yeah, this group is for discussing the internals of the libraries.
Oh,
The next one,
that's
yeah,
good.
the next one is on next Sunday.
Yes.
That is on hooks, like how React hooks works internally.
Great.
So how will we get notified about those events? Like,
If you are on a Meetup group, then you might be getting a
I guess I'm not.
I think in the WhatsApp, this Ali Talks, I came through that. So Raghava had actually created that group, right? So we all, I believe, we are all a part of that group, right?
Where?
I think
Uh,
Raghavendra had a group accessibility talks where he posted this link.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
unfortunately,
I'm not very sure about.
get in touch with Raghava. Yeah.
I can pin the Meetup group link.
yeah, please do that. Thank you.
Let's just do this.
But a really good initiative, let me say. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think, yeah. Sudhanshu, we can add this link in the GitHub too. Just,
Yep, I learned that.
yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.